Chapter 2. Awakening Shadows. Sleep was a brittle shell that Selene dared not break, yet morning came regardless. She woke to the thin grey light seeping through her threadbare blanket, the same light that revealed paint peeling off the walls and the leaky faucet's endless drip. Outside the world groaned awake, but Selene lingered in bed, clutching her left hand. She needed to be sure the faint glow she had witnessed the night before was just a trick of the mind. She uncurled her fingers. In the pale light, her palm looked perfectly ordinary. No flicker, no eerie luminescence. The relief that swept through her was almost enough to make her laugh. Almost. Then she remembered how it had appeared, the subtle shine that refused to vanish when she rubbed it. A wave of unease settled in her stomach. It happened once. It could happen again. By the time she left her room, the rest of her apartment building was stirring. Someone muttered curses about broken plumbing. A child cried in a hallway that smelled of rancid cooking oil. Selene kept her head down and gripped her worn satchel, trying to quell the dread that clung to her like a persistent shadow. Her first stop was a cramped food stall near the corner where she worked. The vendor there, an older woman with tired eyes, sold battered fruit and rock-hard bread at cut-rate prices. Selene handed over her last coins for a bruised apple, silently praying her next paycheck wouldn't be delayed again. As she turned to leave, she caught sight of a policeman, one of the enforcers. He wore a dark, neatly pressed uniform with polished boots that seemed insultingly clean in their dingy surroundings. A baton hung at his hip, and his gaze swept across the market stalls, seeking anything out of order. Selene froze. That baton, that unflinching stare, it reminded her of why so many people in her district moved with eyes lowered and words hushed. "Keep moving," she told herself. Heart hammering, she forced a calm expression and slipped into the crowd. The main street leading to the factory was livelier than usual. A street argument had erupted between two vendors squabbling over territory, drawing onlookers. Thick tension simmered in the air, and a child, barely 5 or 6, stood on the periphery, wailing for a parent lost in the commotion. Selene's chest constricted. The child's cry came sharp and panicked, like an alarm. Before she could stop herself, she veered toward the sobbing boy. Her own worry, her own fear of seeing someone so young left adrift in this harsh city, surfaced with a jolt of empathy. She knelt down and laid a gentle hand on his trembling shoulder. "It's okay," she murmured, glancing around for any sign of the boy's caretaker. But all she saw was a chaotic swirl of people. The child gasped for air between sobs, tears cutting streaks through the dirt on his cheeks. Selene's thoughts raced. I need to calm him down, help him feel safe. She pictured a comforting image in her mind, a woman's figure, warm and reassuring, holding the boy's hand. She imagined the woman stepping toward him, offering a gentle smile. It was a fleeting fantasy, a wishful thought. Yet the boy suddenly stopped crying, his gaze shifting to a spot just behind Selene. She turned and froze. A translucent mirage shimmered in the air, the vague outline of a woman that flickered like the glitchy holograms in the upper-class squares. Selene's breath caught. I did that. I made that happen. The mirage hovered for only seconds, but it was enough. Around them onlookers sucked in startled breaths. One woman shouted in alarm, and a vendor dropped a crate of vegetables, the contents spilling across the ground. Selene's heart pounded so hard she feared it might crack her ribs. She released the child and stumbled backward. The mirage wavered, then dissipated into nothing. The hush that followed was deafening. A handful of people wore expressions of shocked awe. Others looked frightened. Eyes darted between Selene and the spot where the mirage had been. It was as if the entire market inhaled in collective fear, waiting for the hammer to fall. Suddenly the boy's frantic parent came sprinting out of the crowd, scooping the child into her arms. Selene felt a burst of relief until she noticed the policeman from earlier pushing his way through the throng. His gaze locked onto her, hard and distrustful. Panic seized her. Run. Her instinct screamed it before her mind caught up. She turned and took off, dodging between stunned bystanders, the policeman's shouts echoing behind her. "Hey, stop!" She didn't dare look back. Selene ran until her lungs burned. She ducked into a narrow alley that reeked of sour trash and pressed her back against the cool, damp brick. Footsteps thundered past the alley's entrance, but whoever pursued her missed the turn. She stayed frozen, trembling. Her mind replayed the incident in the market, the child's tears, her impulse to console him, the shimmering mirage, something she had summoned. She pressed a hand to her mouth, terrified not just by the policeman's reaction, but by what she herself had done. Why couldn't I control it? She realized her left palm tingled. When she lifted it, she found no glow, only the memory of what it had done. Her breath came in staccato bursts. She forced herself to calm down. She couldn't stay in the alley forever. Slowly she edged out of hiding. The policeman was nowhere in sight. A wave of relief warred with dread. She needed to avoid crowds, at least until she could sort out her next steps. Instead of heading to the factory, Selene turned toward home. Her wages would be docked for missing a shift, but that was a problem for another day. Right now, self-preservation mattered more. She slipped in through the back entrance of her building, a narrow door with a busted lock, then climbed the stairs 2 at a time. Once in her room, she bolted the door, ignoring the startled looks from neighbors who glimpsed her fleeing up the staircase. She paced the length of her cramped living space, trying to steady her racing heart. "Selene, are you in there?" A familiar voice called through the door. Sophia, of course. She's always at my door when I least expect it. But her voice carried worry, maybe a bit of fear, too. Selene shut her eyes and sucked in a lungful of air. She slid the bolt aside and opened the door just enough to see Sophia's anxious face. The moment Sophia spotted her, she pushed the door wider and slipped in. "I heard what happened at the market," she said, voice taut. "Rumors are flying, Selene, about illusions, about someone who did something impossible." Heat flared in Selene's cheeks. "People exaggerate," she mumbled. "I just helped a kid." Sophia's expression flickered with both fear and compassion. "I know you, Selene. There's something different about you. Always has been. Please tell me what's going on. Are the rumors true?" Selene's first instinct was to lie, to claim she had no idea what the crowd saw, but the worry in Sophia's eyes unraveled her defenses. She sank onto the edge of her cot and sighed. I think I can do things," she whispered, voice trembling. "In my dreams, I can shape the world around me, but now, it's happening when I'm awake. I didn't mean to show anyone. It just happened." Sophia's eyes widened. For a long moment she said nothing, her mouth forming a silent question. Finally she exhaled shakily and perched beside Selene. "Dream powers," she whispered. "Do you realize how dangerous that is?" Selene nodded, her hands clasped to stop them from shaking. "We've heard the stories about those who vanish. If anyone suspects I can manipulate dreams or illusions, I don't know what they'll do to me." Sophia placed a hand over Selene's, her voice steady despite the tremor in it. "We'll figure this out. We'll be careful." A ghost of a grateful smile tugged at Selene's lips. "Thank you," she managed. Part of her wanted to crumble into tears and fear, but she fought the urge. She needed to stay strong. If the policeman's reaction at the market was any indication, time was short. That evening, Selene peeked through the tiny slit of her window, scanning the dimly lit street below. No sign of enforcers. No sign of the policeman who had chased her. Yet. Still, her stomach twisted whenever footsteps or muffled voices drifted up from the alley. She locked her door. Every creak of the old floorboards set her nerves on edge, each gust of wind through the cracks in the walls sounding like a whispered threat. News traveled fast in the district. By now the rumor of an impossible illusion would have spread like wildfire. They'll come looking. She changed into fresh clothes, just a faded tunic and patched pants, and spent an hour pacing. Then, a low buzz from her phone startled her. Cautiously, she lifted it to see an unknown number flashing across the screen. With trembling fingers, she tapped to open the message. "They're watching. Protect your dreams." Her heart lurched. Fear jolted down her spine. Who sent this? She typed a reply, but before she could even press send, the message vanished from her phone. No history, no trace. Her mind spun. They, whoever that was, knew about her dreams. Protect your dreams. It sounded like a warning or an order. Night settled like a heavy cloak. Selene lit a small lamp, its yellow glow stretching shadows across the cracked walls. She thought about the dream from the night before, about the dark silhouettes pressing in. Were they connected to this message, or to the glowing mark on her hand? Fear battled curiosity. Her eyelids felt leaden from the day's events, but dread gnawed at her gut. She did not want to sleep, did not want to risk another shift in reality that could betray her. Yet, as the hours dragged on, her body begged for rest. She curled on the cot, arms wrapped around herself. A single question loomed, echoing in her mind. If I lose control again, what happens next? For now only silence answered. She drifted off, no prayer on her lips except a desperate hope that her dreams, and the illusions they birthed, would not betray her any further.